tails, one head. Yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. 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 Three heads, old yang. start by reading a passage from the Inner Teachings of Taoism. The Essentials of Self-Transformation According to the Complete Reality School of Taoism, with commentary by I-ming. This section is called 24 Secrets of Alchemy. Repair the alchemical workshop. Nourish the temporal, strengthen the physical body. To nourish the temporal is the point of departure. When vitality, energy, and spirit are vigorous, one can bear hunger and cold. Having cultivated the physical body until it is firm and strong, giving shelter from the rain and wind, it is good for refining the elixir. Refine the self and set up the foundation. Overcome anger and lust, conquer the self and return to normalcy. Refining the self and mastering the mind are building the foundation. Mundane feelings and idle thoughts are all to be thrown away. When you have refined yourself to where it does not exist, you are imperturbable and unshakable and cannot be deluded by things. Set up the crucible and furnace. Stabilize the will with firmness. Do the work with flexibility. Making the will firm and strong is setting up the crucible. Gradually progressing in the work is setting up the furnace. Firmness and flexibility are both used without imbalance. Having prepared, work the fire and the convergence according to the time. Cull the medicines. Seek the real in the artificial. Pick the gold out of the sand. The great medicines are three: vitality, energy, spirit. It is necessary first to distinguish the true from the false. The division between right and wrong is slight. Be careful not to mix them up. Use lead to control Mercury. When real knowledge is not obscured, conscious knowledge is not flighty. Another name for sense is true lead. Essence, light, and mercuric is represented as Mercury. When you understand the method of bringing sense to stabilize essence, the human mentality does not arise and the mind of Tao is complete. The yellow woman harmonizes. When true intent does not scatter, yin and yang naturally harmonize. You should know that the true intent is the yellow woman. Truthfulness alone can harmonize the four forms. Aggregating the five elements uses its power. Perfecting the being and building life are not apart from it. Lead and Mercury intermingle. Essence goes to seek sense. Sense comes back to essence. Putting the lead in the Mercury, sense returns to essence. Putting the Mercury in the lead, essence cleaves to sense. When sense and essence merge without obstruction, there is no worry that the great way will not be accomplished. Work the fire to smelt and refine. Activate sane energy. Sweep out aberrant energy. Gentle cooking and fierce refinement are the methods of immortals. Fire comes forth in the spiritual furnace, yin and yang, burning away the 1,000 kinds of pollutants. Naturally, the great medicines emanate misty light. The restored elixir congeals. Firmness and flexibility balance each other. Essence and sense are as one. When essence and sense are unified, that is called the restored elixir. Bright and clear, reality and consciousness join into one whole. Having obtained the original priceless jewel, carefully guard it. Practice observation of the spirit. Bathe and incubate. Do not let thoughts arise. Do not let attention scatter. Washing off defilement and dust is the method of bathing. Do not be negligent. Do not be forceful. Join yin and yang. When entanglements do not arise, the basis of the elixir is stable. Nurturing the spiritual root, the flower buds are fragrant. The basis of the elixir becomes mature. Within black, there is white. When quietude culminates, there is movement. Within black, there is white, the herb of long life. Within darkness is concealed light, the life-prolonging Tonganic. Refining it into something crystal clear and pure, it penetrates heaven and earth with a ray of light. Ingest the gold elixir. Gather the spirit into the room, transmuting earthliness. The elixir ingested does not come from outside. The refined real consciousness rests within. The internal organs produce light. Earthly energy is transmuted. Without confusion or obscurity, obstacles are broken through. Move the furnace and crucible. The root source in hand, plant and nurture according to the time. The gold elixir in hand, there is true transmission. Moving the furnace and crucible is a mystery within a mystery. Henceforth, carefully cook the great medicine, refining the primordial within the primordial opening. Congeal the spiritual embryo. All the spirit gathered, the 5 elements merge. The 5 energies return to the origin and gather on the spiritual pedestal. The primordial seed is already firmly planted. As though an idiot, as though drunk, as though deep asleep, in ecstasy and profound abstraction, you congeal the spiritual embryo. Difficulty in the morning, darkness at night. Know the male, keep the female. Refine with the natural fire. Knowing the male, it is also necessary to keep the female. Steaming with water and fire is not a matter of the hour. There is naturally a pivot which turns over the trigrams. What is the need to make conscious effort? Incubate the embryo, like a hen sitting on an egg, like an oyster embracing a pearl. Concentrate single-mindedly like a hen sitting on an egg. Be thoroughly sincere like an oyster embracing a pearl. Hour after hour, quietly watch over the aperture of open awareness to avoid letting water and fire be isolated in the furnace. Forestall danger. Externally oblivious of the body, internally oblivious of the mind. Before celestial energy is thoroughly pure, there is still danger. As long as earthly energy is not exhausted, it is necessary to prevent peril. If the pollution of acquired conditioning is dissolved away, it can be guaranteed that the embryo will not be damaged. In 10 months, the embryo is mature. Primordial energy is pure. Conditioning is evaporated. After 10 months of work, the embryo is finally mature. When conditioning is all dissolved, the primal is complete. Utterly pure and clean, there is nothing else. It is one naturalness, neither form nor void. Wait for the time to break free. No thought, no doing, not obsessed, not indifferent. Basically, there is a time to break free, transformed. It will not do to be too early or too late. Truthfulness within reaches outside, not admitting force. When a melon is ripe, it naturally separates from the stem. The infant emerges, breaking through non-differentiation, leaping into nothingness. Keep still in the yellow court and nurture the valley spirit. With body complete and energy replete, the fire is stopped. With a peal of thunder, the gate of heaven opens, and out leaps the indestructible, immortal person. Breastfeed for 3 years, enlightened but not shining, illumined but not using it. When real consciousness is refined into a golden body, it never ever falls into the dust. Nursing it for 3 years, enlightened but not shining, knowing before and understanding after, the sage is spiritual. Exiting and entering at will, body and spirit both sublimated, merging into reality with the Tao. Body and spirit both sublimated, equal to space, merging in reality with the Tao. All things are penetrated. Appearing, hiding, going against or along, no one can fathom it. Clustered there is form, dispersed the wind. Facing a wall for 9 years, neither being nor non-being stand. The universe is ultimately empty. 9 years facing a wall, who is there that knows? The work of entering the room does not depend on thought. The universe returns to emptiness. Ordinary and holy are gone. In the realm of silent serenity, the abode of immortals is built. The child also produces grandchildren, transformation without end, unfathomable spiritual wonders. The child also produces grandchildren. Ordinary and sage are the same. The only distinction is in going along or coming back in reverse. Ancient immortals left the secret of a great elixir, with endless transmutations, getting through everywhere. These 24 secrets are steps of the process which must be thoroughly understood, as the slightest deviation produces a great miss. Since ancient times, the immortals and real people usually have not clearly indicated the order of the process. Concealing the mother and speaking of the children, they have just instructed people by means of metaphors and symbols, fearing pilferage by unsuitable people. Since I have received spoken instruction from a teacher, at the risk of making a mistake, I wish to reveal this teaching publicly to those who aspire to it. Even if one lacks the power to put it into practice, simply getting to hear about the Great Way is a measureless blessing. But such a great task requires people of great strength to carry it out. It also requires people to have great character in order to perform it. If one has great strength but lacks great character, there are likely to arise obstacles that will prevent accomplishment of the Great Way. Therefore, if one wants to traverse this path, one should first build character. For mediocre and lesser people, character is more important than the path, because if their virtue is not great, even if they can hear about the way, they cannot necessarily attain it. Students of the Tao should first recognize clearly what these topics mean, know the beginning and the end, when to hurry and when to relax. Only then will they have certain insight and avoid wasting effort. Turning over the trigrams, in the unregenerate human being, the order of the water and fire trigrams is thus. Fire, conscious knowledge, tends to fly up, become dissociated from true reality. Water, real knowledge, tends to flow off, remain unconscious and inaccessible. For enlightenment, these are turned over or inverted. Real knowledge controls conscious knowledge. Conscious knowledge rises to real knowledge. The Valley Spirit, open awareness. Yellow Court, in psychophysical Taoist yoga, the center of the torso. Metaphysically, the center in the sense of intent, as the force that unifies the being. truthfulness, balance, faith. Female and male, receptivity and creativity, tranquility and action, facing a wall, practicing equanimity, entering the room, advanced attainment, black and white, primordial and temporal, non-differentiation and differentiation, transcendence and immanence, detachment and involvement. Our bottom trigram of our primary hexagram is read as solid, broken, broken. That gives us the trigram. Zen, thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Our top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as broken, broken, solid, which is Gen, mountain. The mountain is still. It is a limit where you must stop. Gen brings each cycle to an end, defining a space where we can recognize, assimilate, and complete our experience. He creates a personal still center amid change where we can retreat for perspective and a firm foundation for new growth. He is well-grounded, confident, and of independent spirit. He is still and knows. Mountain is the youngest son, child of maturity. In the cycle of directions and seasons, he is the northeast, late winter approaching spring, the pivot between cycles. Gen mountain above Zen thunder gives us hexagram 27. Our sixth line is an old yang. It will transform into a young yin, giving us a secondary or supporting hexagram with the top trigram of broken, 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 which is Kun, earth. Kun is earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, it gives it form and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. That will give us Kun, earth, above Zen thunder, which will make the hexagram 24. The question we bring to the I Ching when we consult the oracle will have the general context of How can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time? And the way we understand the answer is to understand how the parts of our reading work together. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. We'll start reading from I-ming's Taoist I-ming, written in 1796. He was a Taoist adept, and Thomas Cleary has translated it. Hexagram 27, lower jaw, nourishment. Discernment of good, becoming empty to seek fulfillment. And our supporting hexagram 24. Return. Return of consciousness of reality. Activity obeying the mind. We'll start reading the text section, which contains our changing line. And then we'll move on to the commentary section, which does not contain our changing line. So we will need to note, once we reach our changing line, that's our most focused part of our reading. When we move on from there, we're just reiterating different aspects of each of our hexagrams. Hexagram 27, lower jaw, nourishment. In nourishment, it is good to be correct. Observe nourishment and seek fulfillment for the mouth by yourself. Explanation. The lower jaw moves whenever the mouth eats something. From that, it has the meaning of nourishing people. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is mountain, still, and below is thunder, active. Action does not depart from stillness. Stillness nurtures action. Action is not random. Stillness is not in vain. Action and stillness unified, it is therefore called nourishment. This hexagram represents choosing good and holding fast to it, becoming empty to seek fulfillment. It follows on the previous hexagram, fidelity. Fidelity involves strong action. Without the work of care and nurturance, action and strength cannot be appropriate, and fidelity thus errs. This is why the path of nourishment is important. Nourishment means nourishing what is right and getting rid of what is not right. What is right is beneficial to body and mind. What is not right is harmful to body and mind. Therefore, the path of nourishment requires correctness to be good. So if you want nourishment to be correct, first you must observe whether the way of nourishment is true or false. Observing does not mean looking with the eyes. It means distinguishing in the mind what is so and what is not so, in order to find out truth. When truth is clear, then with real knowledge and lucid perception in action, one cultivates what is right, and in stillness one nourishes what is right. When one attains what is properly nurtured in both action and stillness, one can thereby seek fulfillment by oneself. It does not say seek food for the mouth, it says seek fulfillment for the mouth. It does not merely say seek fulfillment for the mouth, it says seek fulfillment for the mouth by yourself. This means what is sought is what is right, and what is fulfilled is what is important. It is not a matter of rich food. It is a matter of benevolence, justice, and enlightened qualities. But the way to fill oneself with benevolence and justice and taste enlightened qualities is all in seeking by oneself, not relying on others. One day when you conquer yourself and return to true order, the whole world will revert to humanity. If you seek fulfillment, you find fulfillment. If you seek food, you find food. It is simply a matter of what you seek for yourself. The mouth is something empty inside. Fulfillment means satisfying, filling. Emptying the mind, filling the belly, emptiness and fullness correspond. When the time calls for action, you act, actively furthering yang. When the time calls for stillness, you remain still, quietly using yin. Cultivating the external by action, nurturing the internal by stillness, unconstrained by action or stillness, inwardly and outwardly merging with the Tao, stillness as ever nurturing, action also nurturing, action and stillness consistently correct. Ultimately, one can perfectly attain the great Tao, auspiciously completing it. Those who consider the harm of hunger and thirst to be harmful to the mind all nurture the small and lose the great. This could be called seeking food by oneself, but it could hardly be called seeking fulfillment by oneself. Once one has lost true fulfillment, how could it be called nourishment? And our supporting hexagram 24. This shows what the reading is about for us. It puts the primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel. It shows how it all relates to us. Return. Return is developmental. Exiting and entering, there is no ill. When a companion comes, there is no fault. Reversing the path, returning in 7 days, it is beneficial to have a place to go. Explanation. Return means coming back. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is earth, obedient, below is thunder, active. When activity obeys the mind, the heavens turn in their course while human affairs proceed successfully. Also in the body of the hexagram, one yang moves below a group of yins. This is the first return of yang energy. In both senses, equally, is the path of return, so it is called return. This hexagram represents the return of yang within primordial yin. It follows on the previous hexagram, adornment. Adornment is being clear-minded and resting in the proper place, thereby to nurture clarity and operate the fire to gather primordial true yang. Gathering true yang is the path of returning yang in the midst of yin, reordering personal affairs by which one can appropriate the creativity of nature and comprehend life and death, so that return is unfailingly developmental. Though the path of return is developmental, nevertheless people accept the false and neglect the real. Most do not know the return of the real. If you know it, it is near at hand. The mind of Tao appears. The human mentality retreats, and you can exit and enter in the midst of yin and yang without being adversely affected by yin and yang. It is necessary to know the timing of return. It is not to be forcefully sought before the proper time, and should not be missed once the time has come. Only then can one find the real. When people are first born, they are all good with no evil. Then, when they get mixed up in acquired conditioning, yin injures their yang and there is loss of original natural reality. But even though it is lost, it is never totally non-existent. There still is a breath of living potential within. This may appear at times, but people do not recognize it even when it does, because they are deceived by personal desires and confused by worldly affairs. To return it, restore it, it is necessary to take advantage of times when this living potential appears and set about quickly gathering it. Only then can it be one's own. If the living potential has not yet appeared and you keep to quietude and empty silence, how can it return? Thus it returns when a companion comes, and only then can one be without fault. The character for companion is written as a conjunction of two moons. One is yang and one is yin. When yin culminates, yang is born. There is yang within yin. This is called a companion comes. If yin does not culminate, yang is not born, and the companion does not come. If the companion does not come, yin and yang do not interact. Then where would creative energy come from? Therefore, it is necessary that a companion come for the living potential to appear. The living potential appears with the interaction of yin and yang. Gather it and put it in the furnace of creation, and in a moment, calamity turns into blessing. Punishment turns into reward. Before there was fault because of loss of true yang. Now that true yang is restored, one can be without fault. But though one can be impeccable by restoring this, the way to do it involves work in an orderly fashion, restoring it gradually. One cannot restore it immediately, or even if one does restore it immediately, it cannot be stabilized. It is necessary to first refine oneself and master the mind, waiting for the time to act. Therefore, reversing the path, reality returns in 7 days. Reversing means turning around and operating in reverse, away from progressive conditioning, back to the original integrity of the real mind. 7 days is the number of the yang fire. The energy of harmony, of essence and feeling in people is the yang fire. This is the real. The restlessness of acquired energy in people is the yin fire. This is the false. The real completes life, the false injures life. Reversing the path means first reversing this false fire so as to return to the real fire. In 7 days, the yang fire arises and the yin fire dies out. Utterly empty and silent, within black there is white. The primordial energy becomes manifest from within nothingness. Gradually gathering and refining it, one can crystallize the restored elixir. This path is not difficult to know, but it is difficult to practice. When you know it, it is most important to practice it. If you know it but do not practice it, that is tantamount to not knowing. Having a place to go and promptly setting about cultivating it, it will surely return gradually, from a single yang until 6 yangs are pure and complete. What can compare to the growth and fruition of that return? Back to our primary hexagram, 27, to read our changing line 6, which has the general context. Reviewing experience. Beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. And again, this is our most focused part of our reading. It takes precedence over all other elements. Line 6 of hexagram 27, lower jaw or nourishment. The source of nourishment, dangerous but auspicious. It is beneficial to cross great rivers. Explanation. Firmness abiding in flexibility, resting in its proper place, action and stillness unified, one is able to nourish the inner and the outer as well, able to nourish oneself and also nourish others. Great is that nourishment. This is the source of the path of nourishment, whereby it is possible to complete the beginning and complete the end. Able to nourish in adverse circumstances, one is then able to nourish in favorable circumstances, of one's own accord, without waiting for anything to be said. When nourishment reaches the point where it is unconstrained by adversity or favor, unobstructed by difficulty or ease, then energy and constitution both transmute. Yin and yang merge, and one rests in the highest good, unwavering. The spiritual embryo solidifies, and the great way is completed. This is nourishment that includes both emptiness and fullness together, that has a beginning and an end. In each of the 6 lines, there is that which is nourished, but there are differences of right and wrong. If we look for firmness and flexibility to match each other, freedom from constraint by either adverse or favorable circumstances, both striving and non-striving, completion from beginning to end, it seems we can only find this in the top yang. Practitioners of the Tao should calmly observe and closely examine, seek fullness by means of emptiness, nurture what is right, and return to the state of highest good where there is no evil. We'll now move on to the commentary section and read again Hexagram 27. Jaws. Mountain above, thunder below. There is thunder beneath the mountain. Superior people are careful about what they say and moderate in eating and drinking. Jaws has the meaning of taking nourishment. Above is mountain, below is thunder. There is thunder beneath the mountain. A mountain is still, thunder is active. Using stillness to nurture activity, activity being based on stillness, is like the upper jaw being still while the lower jaw moves. Stillness awaiting movement. This is the image of jaws, meaning nourishment. What superior people see in this is that the mouth is a passageway through which things may exit or enter, and it is the door of right and wrong, the root of calamity and fortune. Therefore, they are careful about what they say, and they are moderate in eating and drinking. Speech is the voice of the mind. When speech is correct, the mind is correct, and when speech is incorrect, the mind is incorrect. Every word should be spoken only if it is of benefit to the course of the world and to people's minds. Speech should be guarded and not uttered at random. Food and drink are important to the body. If food and drink are appropriate, they benefit the body, and if food and drink are not appropriate, they harm the body. Food and drink should be taken only after consideration of the reason. One should not crave too much, and should be moderate in eating and drinking. When one is careful of speech, then the mind has nourishment. When one is moderate in eating and drinking, then the body has nourishment. When mind and body both have their nourishment, inside and outside are free from injury, then nature and life can be cultivated. This is what is meant by the saying, when one eats at proper times, the body is healthy. When one acts at the appropriate moment, the course of affairs runs smoothly. And Hexagram 24, our supporting hexagram return, earth above, thunder below. Thunder is in the earth, return. Thus did the kings of yore shut the gates on the winter solstice. Caravans did not travel, the ruler did not inspect the regions. Return means reversion and restoration. Above is earth, below is thunder. There is thunder in the earth. Thunder is something very active. When thunder stirs in the earth, the mechanism of enlivening operates and myriad things are born. What the ancient kings saw in this was that as everything revives when the positive creative energy operates, so does the living potential return to humans when their positive energy becomes manifest. So they closed the gates on the winter solstice, not allowing caravans to go forth and trade, not allowing the ruler to go out and inspect the regions. This was all to get people to emulate the restoration of heaven and earth, nurturing this point of living potential, not letting it be damaged. What is the living potential? The potential is the natural innocent mind inherent in humans. This is the progenitor of life, the source of yin and yang. Once it falls into temporal conditioning, it becomes covered by temperament and cannot be consistently manifest. When it occasionally does manifest, this is the time of the return of the celestial within the mundane. This time, however, is hard to gain and easy to lose. Most people do not know it and miss it even when it is right there. Because of this, the mundane gradually grows and the celestial gradually wanes. When the celestial is exhausted and mundanity is complete, there is only death. The shutting of the gates on the winter solstice is so that when the positive energy returns, people will nurture it. Caravans not traveling means not allowing involvement with external artificialities to damage inner reality. The ruler not inspecting the regions means preventing keenness in criticizing others, coupled with the dullness in cultivating oneself. Once the gates are closed, one is careful and strict. Inwardly, thoughts do not arise. External things do not enter. Thus, the positive energy cannot leak out. Thus it was that the ancient kings established their resolve for the sake of the world and established order to enable the people to live. When superior people who practice the Tao refine themselves and master their minds, illumination arises in inner openness, and the living potential is activated. They should quickly gather it into the furnace of evolution, conscientiously forestall danger, carefully seal it and store it securely, fostering its growth from vagueness to clarity, until there is eventually a return of the celestial energy to pure completeness. This is the same idea as the ancient kings shutting the gate on the winter solstice. This time when the positive celestial energy first returns is the passageway of life and death. If you can avail yourself of it, you enter the road of life, but if you lose it, you wind up on the road of death. Shut the gates here means closing the door of death. When the door of death is closed, the door of life opens. Heaven borrows human power. Humans borrow celestial power. When heaven and humanity work together, the elixir of immortality crystallizes in a short time, without requiring years of effort. Unfortunately, most people do not seek the personal instruction of a genuine teacher and miss the opportunity that is right before them. Going to read from James Dekorne, but I left that in the house. So I'll have a little bit shorter of a reading day. The next is, we're getting to Hilary Barrett. Walking your path, creating your future. Hexagram 27, she calls nourishment. Key questions. What would nourish you? How is your hunger motivating you? If you accept this as nourishment, who will you become? Oracle. Nourishment. Constancy brings good fortune. See the jaws. Your own quest for something real to fill your mouth. Literally, this hexagram is called jaws. It means not only what you eat, but all the processes and structures that sustain nourishment. It includes all forms of nourishment, physical, social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. all creating and recreating an individual ecosystem to sustain and shape you. Constancy brings good fortune, steady, clear persistence in honoring what truly sustains you. Yi calls on you to see the jaws, to become aware. How do you habitually nourish yourself and others? What deep instincts are at work here? What real nourishment are you seeking? Image. Below the mountain is thunder, nourishment. A noble one reflects on his words and conversation, and is discriminating about what he eats and drinks. The sound of thunder under the mountain echoes and re-echoes, and is slow to fade away. The words you speak are the same. You put them into circulation, and they become part of the constant flow of nourishment among people. The same flow that nourishes you in the end. A noble one pays careful attention to both giving and receiving, how he nourishes others, and what he will accept as nourishment from others. You don't have to swallow every opinion you are offered. Sequence. Nourishment follows from Hexagram 26, Great Taming. Things are tamed, and so there can be nurturing, and so nourishment follows. Nourishment means nurturing. Naturally, to nourish people, you need good farmers. The truths you choose to nurture and cultivate in your life become the foundation of your personal ecosystem. They are your basic nourishment and the energy source for your creative action. Pair. Nourishment is paired and contrasted with Hexagram 28, Great Exceeding. Nourishment nurtures correctly, great exceeding overbalances. To grow into your whole self, you create a harmonious, balanced cycle of mutual nourishment. Yet this growth will eventually outgrow the framework that sustained it. In our supporting Hexagram 24, she calls returning as well. Key questions: what is just beginning to germinate? How can you follow your sense of direction more closely? Where might the path lead now? Oracle. Returning, creating success. Going out, coming in, without anxiety. Partners come, not a mistake. Turning around and returning on your path. The seventh day comes, you return. Fruitful to have a direction to go. Your journey leads you out and home again through the turning points on your way. Vigor and authenticity return in the still moments of those turning points. Life regenerates from the roots and light returns. By walking constantly to and from your source, you participate in a two-way flow of creation. You go out and rediscover your own way. You return through an open door to your home and relationships. This is a living motion, like breathing, that revitalizes and restores. Relaxed and spacious, it allows time for the path's natural meanderings, never creating resistance. Since you are in motion, helpers of all kinds come, traveling companions who walk alongside you for a while. If someone is meant to be with you, you will never need to leave your path to chase after them. Just as any road can be traveled in two directions, your path also leads both out and back again, and so, in the fullness of time and following a natural progression, there comes a moment to turn around. Through all this going and coming and starting afresh, it is good to have an overarching direction and purpose to guide you. The quality of returning is alive, growing and dynamic, a good time to rediscover your own deepest intent and its harmony with the Tao. Image. Thunder, dwelling in the center of the earth, returning. The ancient kings closed the borders at winter solstice. Itinerant merchants did not travel. The prince did not tour the regions. In winter, nothing moves or grows. Thunder dwells quietly at the center of the earth. When spring comes, it will surge up and rouse everything to new life. But at present, it is barely beginning to stir. Winter solstice, darkest moment of the year, is when light just begins to return. The ancient kings cared for the people as the earth covers a dormant seed. They contained people's impulse to rush out and resume business as usual, so that the energy for growth would not be squandered in the depths of winter. This is the turning point on your path, a moment to be still and turn inward to listen for little glimmerings and inklings of awareness, to nurture the seeds of a personal sense of direction. Sequence. Returning follows from Hexagram 23, stripping away. Things cannot be completely used up. Stripping away comes to an end on the outside, and there is a turnaround on the inside, and so returning follows. After the last firm line leaves the 6th place of Hexagram 23, it returns in the 1st place of Hexagram 24 on the inside. Things move in cycles. Whenever old growth is stripped away, it is making space for new shoots. And then, changing line 6 of our primary hexagram, 27, which has the general context, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. The most focused part of our reading, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements. Line 6. Is this heaven's highway? Creating success. Oh, whoops. We need to read it from the right hexagram. Line 6 of Hexagram 27, Nourishment. Origin of nourishment, danger, good fortune, fruitful to cross the great river. The origin of nourishment, the source it grows from. What you need is right here with you, and responsibility stops here. It's up to you to provide. There's no safety net to fall back on. You need to be aware of the dangers and avoid delusions of your own invincibility. But this is also good fortune. Because you carry your nourishment with you, you can find your own path again, make new commitments, and explore new territory. Lately, I've been reading from James Dekorne as well. I encourage you to check out the links in the description box that will have both of these hexagrams linked to his site. He'll have a synthesis from several different commentaries, and then he'll have editor's notes and paraphrases and notes at the end. That paraphrase notes section is usually super valuable. We're going to now find out what we're reading from the Tao Te Ching before we close it out. Looks like chapter 60. And this translation is by Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. Ruling the country is like cooking a small fish. Approach the universe with Tao, and evil will have no power. Not that evil is not powerful, but its power will not be used to harm others. Not only will it do no harm to others, but the sage himself will also be protected. They do not hurt each other, and the virtue in each one refreshes both.